the 20, lots of room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
And it is time for another episode of Believe Kentucky. Aaron Gershon from the Cat's Paws. My name is Vinny Hardy. Got Jalen Whitlow will be back with us in the upcoming episode. AG, man, how we doing?
Doing well, man. It's that time of year again, football-wise. We are fall camp kicked off today, actually, and we'll have football media day on Friday, open practice to the media only Friday, and then an open practice to fans on Fan Day Saturday. So it's that time of year again. We're back at it, pretty much full go with football, and that's an exciting time of year, of course. There's been some fun summer basketball, which we don't normally get, nostalgia stuff that we went down Monday. That was really cool, obviously. And then, the current team just finished up their media sessions for the summer. So some takeaways from that, nothing crazy, but it's always it's always busy, honestly, in the month of August. And we start that up tomorrow.
Yeah. And trumping all of that, you already had a good week yourself, or starting, I guess, with the weekend on into this week. I wasn't on Twitter, and then I saw our little message group between yourself and myself and Jalen, and I saw congratulations. I thought, that can only mean one thing, and sure enough, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, man. Getting engaged, obviously, a pretty big deal. Maddie and I have been together for just over 7 years, so it was a long time coming, but got that done on Saturday, and already getting hit with all the wedding planning questions and all that great stuff. So that'll be interesting to deal with. Fun at times, stressful at times, I'm sure, but no, we're both pretty excited here, and it'll be great.
Yeah, so congratulations to
appreciate you,
both of y'all, on the engagement news. Did you have it all planned out, how you were going to do it? Did you just
I did, but Maddie is one of the more, she just picks up on things. There's no keeping secrets from her. So I didn't necessarily fool her by any means, but I did plan it out, and the surprise factor wasn't necessarily there, but still a moment neither of us will forget ever. So made the most of it. It was definitely not the biggest surprise ever for her, but that's okay. I tried.
Hey, that's all we can do, and more.
That's all you can do.
They just got that inner detective where they figure stuff out. They're hard to surprise. Same thing with my wife. Her family was they're gonna meet at this restaurant, and I think with some of my family coming too, but she had told me about it, and I tried to kind of like play it off, and I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I'm gonna be doing like stuff with the guys or whatever this particular weekend." I wasn't gonna be able to make the little family function this particular time. We've been dating. We knew we were progressing towards marriage.
Mm-hmm.
This particular thing, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to make it, and my whole thing was to be there and then propose and surprise her. So our niece, who's about like our daughter, she was like 2. Yeah. We started dating. She's 26 now. So I think when my wife's too, she gets there, I was there off to a different area, but my niece is like, Vinny's here and he's got a ring. So, that shot that whole thing down. Just a typical little excited, just being she's like 2 years old, man. But she knew what was going on, and she went right to my wife and told her. So
funny.
It still was good. All the family was there, and it still went as good. But it's hard to surprise them. And then
it is hard,
even for anniversary gifts, which it'll be 23rd anniversary coming on Monday. I try to sneak. I take it as a challenge. Because I'm like, okay, all right, I'm gonna just keep it all sneaky. I'm gonna do this behind their back and that. I just trying to work it all out. So I was doing some sneak shopping yesterday, trying to just stay one step ahead of her figuring stuff out. So
there you go. Yeah. They always
Well,
seem
congratulations. And look, we starting off with
appreciate it.
engagement talk and all that, but this is a sports podcast, but we had to acknowledge that.
Yeah,
Both.
it's a once and hopefully, obviously, once in a lifetime situation. So, really, really awesome. Obviously, it's been a whirlwind of a couple days. Going back to work with that, happening Saturday, but couldn't be more excited. And we move on to football season and planning on the side here.
Exactly. And as we currently speak, 2/3 of the guys on this show are engaged. So now, just a few weeks ago, Jalen, proposed.
Yeah, that's right.
So, we got to talk that. So both of y'all are right there in that planning phase leading up to the wedding phase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are very similar timelines. So, Jalen's going through, I'm sure, even more in the woods of the planning than I am at this point. But
right.
It's going to be an interesting couple months, year. We're thinking next summer, so it's going to be an interesting year worth of planning, questions, and all that. But we'll make it happen.
Yeah, and that'll fly by. It's in the woods as you get. It'll be over before you know it. So, and then it's that day, wedding day, and all the planning's done. And man, we were just looking at planning, and now
it's all for one big day.
That's it.
All for one big day.
The one big day for TBT was as soon as we saw the bracket, everybody saw this Kentucky Louisville collision course, and it went pretty much like it always does. Kentucky plays Louisville, man.
Yeah, no, they beat them again. Just like you said, pretty much like they always do. I honestly didn't get to watch it in live. I had something else going on, but did go back and watch some of the highlights, look through the box score, and just it seemed like Kentucky was, there were moments Louisville might have came close, but Kentucky was pretty much in control of the thing the whole way. Again, pretty far par for the course of what's been happening lately. But really cool to see Nate Sestina go off in that game. I know there was the big skirmish there at the end, and a Louisville guy spitting on Sestina. That there's no place for that. I would hope Louisville fans would agree with that. Obviously, I think they would. So that part of it, you don't want to see that. You do love the intensity. You do love that. The rivalry still means a ton to guys on both sides, and it's alive and well. And you hope that's a preview for what's to come, honestly, from both schools, right? I mean, we talked about it we talked about it last year before Kentucky went to Louisville for the game at the Yum Center, that everyone in the world knew Kentucky was going to win by. It was just a matter of how much are they going to win by. They won it, I believe, by 20 or 20 plus, 22, whatever it was. But you want to see Louisville be a good team. Like, you want that game in December to mean something, not just because it's a rivalry, not just because you want to, as a fan, you want to be able to talk crap to your neighbor who's a Louisville fan and UK fan, vice versa, whatever. But you want it to be a nail biter, really exciting basketball game, like we've seen, in the Patina Cal era. Even though Kentucky won a lot of those games, most of them were pretty darn competitive. Even the one year where Chris Mack took a Louisville team in the rough that was ranked, I think, 3rd in the country, and that was an overtime war at Rupp Arena that Kentucky pulled out. Like, even the COVID year, as terrible as that Kentucky team was, and it stunk they lost to Louisville, that game went down to the absolute wire, and it was an entertaining basketball game. So you want to get that back from this rivalry, and the fact because you could have the moments like you had in a TBT game where, let's face it, you got guys who are trying to stay alive in the sport of basketball. Maybe they're just playing because it's an opportunity. Like, some of these guys are almost done playing altogether. Some are hanging by a thread, and they're still putting it on their line for the schools they've played for and treating it as if they're back, in their college days playing against the arch rivals. So that part of it, really, really cool. The stuff at the end, outside. I mean, I'm okay with the skirmish. I'm okay with it meaning something. The spit was absolutely unacceptable. It sucks it came to that, but it was pretty cool to see that it still meant so much to the guys on both sides, and hopefully it's a precursor for what we have, in December here in Lexington.
I was glad that it was at Louisville. I mean, they won.
Yes.
That means they won the ticket sales contest and all that. But for Kentucky to go there, they were fired up. They were amped. They couldn't wait. The mayor had called it TBT Day in Louisville. I mean, they went all out, and then to still get disappointed, because Kentucky goes in there and beats them like they always do. And it was, I mean, you went back and rewatched it. Kentucky's a better team. It starts to get out of hand. It starts to, verge on the verge of a blowout. Louisville kind of uglies it up, and they foul and play physical, and they kind of, start grappling and all that kind of stuff. And then when it gets back to just free flowing again, Kentucky's pulling away and about to blow them out. And then Louisville tries to, go to those tactics again and to get themselves back in the game. And it's just typical Kentucky Louisville. Kentucky led wire to wire. I mean, Nate Sestina, a lot of people said, we didn't know he hated Louisville this bad. Every time he hit a bucket, he was talking to somebody.
Yes, he was
on the bench. He was giving it to him. It was like Spike Lee when he got hot in the Garden that time. And, and it's kind of the way it was because Nate was just like Will Levis when you tell Will Levis hates Louisville and Tyler Eulis. Nate was only there for 1 year. Season got cut short by COVID, but he was fully immersed into the rivalry. And, like you said, there's no need to spit. You play the game. You went at it. Everything in the world is being said on the floor, in the huddle. The L's down is part of it. If that's your thing, when you lose, that's going to get thrown back. Horns down is going to come back to Texas fans. L's down, Florida's losing, everybody Gator chumps. That's just, if you gotta take it if you dish it out. So Louisville L's up all the time. The opponents are gonna give you the L's down back. So stop whining and getting all. If you first of all, win the game. If you're too sensitive,
there you go.
Too sensitive to handle it, win the game. And if you don't win, then just take it. Because when Louisville does win, doesn't happen a lot. We gotta take the L's up. We can't be whining if they're L's up if they win. So they shouldn't be whining when their opponents go L's down.
Yeah. No, couldn't agree more. And it's just, look, I get there's a pride thing and you don't want to see it. You think it's offensive to your school, whatever. But like you said, then do better and go win. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. And again, I'm not trying to diminish this tournament by any means, but come on now. It's TBT. It's supposed to be a nostalgic event. It's for the fans. I get there's money aspects for the winners. There's certain money that you get for going so far that was already in the pocket, of these Louisville players. So it's there's just no place for it at all. There's just ridiculous. I was pretty surprised, honestly, when I saw that. Again, don't want to diminish the event. I think it's a great idea. But come on now. We're not doing this for TBT. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, Final Four talk in July is fun. The nostalgia aspect, like you said, is fun. The guys are, like you said, different stages of the back nines of their careers. Some guys might be able to prolong things a little bit with a good performance. Tyler Eulis is, brightening his coaching resume already. I think, he's going to push to Arkansas with Cal, but guys can maybe parlay this into other things. And if he wins it, just another feather in his cap going down the road. So, but yeah, you don't have to, no place for spitting and all that. It's just crazy.
Yeah. No place in any sport, any event, none of it. So that was unfortunate.
So you get Ohio State Friday, another blast from the past. We get Jared Sullinger, who they went up against in 2011. Josh Harrelson got the best of him as Kentucky won that.
That's right.
That game, and knocked them out. And that was the number 1 seed, Ohio State.
That's right.
That was their tournament to lose, and Kentucky had other ideas that year. So.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Also, I'm sure that'll be personal for Sullinger. That'll be really fun to watch. But yeah, hopefully they can keep winning and put some more money in their pockets and keep the nostalgia tour going for another day.
Yeah, and just roughly 60,000-70,000 for each if they win it all. I think Brenton Cannon gets 15,000, but still, that's
the difference.
Yeah. And he hit a game-winning free throw. He gets to kick it on the. He hasn't played a lot, but hey, Zell's getting a lot of publicity because they're the ones that sticking the money right in everybody's account. So, I enjoyed it, man. I don't know. This is the 10th or 11th year of it. I don't know. The first year I popped it on, I was like, oh, this is cool. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I wasn't like watching from day one.
Right.
But I haven't watched it every year, but there's times like, hey, this is neat. But
didn't they play some of it at Frederick Douglass or something pretty recently here in Lex?
And they didn't do well. They didn't make it out of
No, they didn't.
Yeah, and Boogie, I know Boogie was on the team, and I don't know who all else, but the attention wasn't there that year that it is this year. We had Sam Malone on here a couple weeks ago talking about it. He gave a lot of credit to 20 Beckham, who, pretty much kind of got it all going and was calling guys and bringing them in. And, Sean Woods played in the 92 team.
Absolutely.
John Hood played with Cal. All the errors kind of overlapping. And it's like they really put a lot of emphasis on it. And so far, so good. They need to win 2 more and they'll, mission accomplished.
Yeah, no, exactly. No. It looks like I was looking ahead. Obviously, have to beat this Ohio State team, but there's a Houston one that's in the Final Four, and then Abilene Drive, which I'm not sure exactly what the affiliate is, but Archie Goodwin's on that team. So that'd be interesting. So I'm looking to see what the significance of that Abilene Drive is. But yeah, so regardless, fun again. Team that grew up in the Fraser, Michigan area, so it looks like a suburb of Detroit. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, again, nostalgia stuff, all really fun, really cool. Cool to see how the current team has kind of rallied around them, made the trip down to Louisville. Took it all in, got a taste of what that rivalry is like and what they're going to be, dealing with come December when they play the Cards here at Rupp.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. No surprise to see Pope and everybody for getting the home games, but for everybody outside of Trent Noah, Travis Perry, Brendan Canada, former players of Kentucky natives, that was a dose. That was a good little dose of what it's about. Kerr Carissa has played everywhere, but he hasn't seen Kentucky, Louisville, Garrison, Jack and Robinson.
No one on this roster.
Yeah.
Maybe Perry and Noah probably know the best, but they haven't played in it. So
Right. So to be up in that crowd, there's a lot of blue in there. There's a lot of Louisville fans, and you could, it's just that electricity, Kentucky, Louisville. It was in Freedom Hall, not young, but still 13,000, 14,000 people. That was a good little sample size for them, man. Well,
Absolutely.
So we got fall camp starting today. Saw a couple little clips. Saw Brock Vandegrift airing a pass out to Barry Brown. Had Paul Rodriguez retire. So had a couple of little things happening as fall camp gets underway.
Yeah, and we'll get a little bit more on Friday during media day, and then Saturday's fan day. So media will get to see 2 practices, which is super helpful. Fans will get to see 1 on Saturday. So get some more clarity on how things are going early over there. I think today was day 1, so it didn't look like from the videos they were padded up yet, but they are supposed to be padded up when we see them on Friday. I would assume Saturday also. Don't know that for sure. But regardless, I think it's exciting, obviously, just to get the team back out there and get to work. It was good to see some of the guys who missed time during the fall, during the spring were in those clips, like Jamori Macklin. He didn't play at all this spring, recovering from an injury. Deion Walker, who we all knew he'd be back, but see him back in some of those clips. I think Kendrick Gilbert, the defensive lineman, who's going to be a redshirt freshman, high recruit out of Indiana. They were able to take away from Purdue there. He was in the clip. I think he might have missed time during spring camp. So that's kind of what I was looking for in that little 30-second clip. Just see the guys who missed time and we're back out there practicing. So we'll get a better feel for that over the weekend. But regardless, it's always an exciting time of year. We've touched on it with this team. It's going to come down to those swing games. South Carolina, Auburn, got to win those football games and see what you can do. And Louisville, that's another swing game, I think you have to say, even though you feel good about it given the success you've had against them. Just the fact that they are an improved team under Brom, there's no doubt about it. But I would say things I'm looking for during camp are simply who's available, who's not. That's always important. You mentioned Paul Rodriguez medically retiring. First of all, hope he's okay. He had 2 years of eligibility left, so I would assume something pretty significant came up with him. So hope he's okay, first of all. And two, I mean, it's not from a merely football standpoint. He was a key special teamer, was kind of one of the front men on their punt team, but only played, I believe it was 11 offensive snaps last year, 3 the year before. He was a second team guard all of last year. So a guy like Ben Christman, who they got out of the portal last offseason, didn't play due to injury. Someone I'd look to fill that void. Maybe Colby Keenum, if you're going to cross-train him at center and guard. Those are kind of the names I'm thinking kind of take that load, but, never want to see that. Hope he's all right type thing going on there. But, we'll definitely have a lot to talk about with just what we see or at least what I see during practice on Friday and Saturday next week. But just from those clips, just fun to see the guys back out there. Definitely nice to see the deep ball there. Beautiful throw by Brock to bury on deep. Looks like he burnt Jansen Dunn a little bit. Jansen, Jansen, I think is a really key player in that secondary. I also wouldn't be surprised if he's more fitted and more of a fit to play in the slot, and that rep looked like it was from the outside. So just something to keep in mind. Looked like J.Q. Hardaway had a pick too, which obviously you don't want your quarterbacks throwing picks, but you need someone stepping up at that second corner spot across the field from Max. So from that aspect, that's a good sign too. So just 30 seconds worth of little practice, edited, all that good stuff. Yeah, but it was just good to see the ball flying around there again.
Mm-hmm.
Also, did you see fans are also, in my opinion, I put out one quote and I knew it was going to get crushed, but Monday was their Lexington annual luncheon thing. It's basically for the coaches and their families, and then A, donors, B, I think season ticket holders can buy a ticket for it, whatever. And there's like a 20-minute kind of State of the Union from Stoops, Hamden, and White that they do. And I think there were some quotes that got taken out of context or ripped or complaining about this. The first one, which I do, this one I'll actually give the fans a pass with, was Mark Stoops kind of joked that he is tired of snapping the ball with 1 second left. Obviously, I get the point. He's the head coach. Like, he has control over that. I think he's kind of making fun of himself there, to be honest with you. Making fun of what's happened the last couple of years, trying to just put it in the past. So it got, 54 quote tweets. So yeah, fans didn't like that answer. It was look, I get it. The offense has been brutal the last 2 years. We obviously have a former quarterback on our show every week, and he has been pretty miserable watching this offense if you listen to him. So we get it. We understand. But I would that quote blown up. There's no reason for it. And then the one that really set people into a frenzy was Bush Hamden saying we'd like to hand the ball off 30 times a game. Now, here's the thing. If they're going to be a faster offense, which is what everyone is praying happens, they should have more than 60 plays a game. I think last year they averaged, let's see how many plays a game. I'm going to look to see how many plays a game. They should have well over 60 plays a game, if not more, if they're going to be a faster paced offense. They're going to get more plays in. So that would mean you're like 60-40 pass, maybe 50-50 at worst. But you also, shouldn't you have known that? Like, as a fan perspective, like, you hired Bush Hampton, and that's not a bad thing. It's just he's a guy who's run the damn ball everywhere he's went. He's had an 1,000-yard rusher every time he's been a coordinator. Last year, Boise State had the number 6 rushing offense in the country. Like, Kentucky, at the end of the day, and they have great playmakers. So, yes, they're still going to throw the ball, in my opinion. They're going to try to make plays happen downfield and be an exciting offense, but they want to get back to the roots a little bit. That's when they were winning games, where you guys weren't complaining in 2019 when they ran the damn ball every play and they went 6-2 with Lynn at quarterback. You weren't complaining in 2018 when the passing offense was almost non-existent. It was existent, but not good. And Benny Snell was winning every game by himself with the offensive line. And in 21, it was probably their best passing offense of the Stoops era. Chris Rodriguez, you take him off the team, they probably go from 10 wins to 7, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, I don't get the outcry with that, especially if they are able to get more plays off, which is the ultimate goal. So that one, I just was like, come on now. Like, I get it's a passing world of football, both in the NFL, both in college, but it's just like, come on now.
Yeah, I chuckled at the we're not going to snap it at 1 second, and I hope he truly is tired of it, because you want to.
I hope so too.
You want to, and his thing is balance. He's never going to be Tennessee, as far as just uber duper super warp speed.
No, and yeah,
but you can definitely pick up the pace from where we've been, and I think that's where they're trying to find that right. Little. Was it Brock Vandegrift talking about Eli Cox? The hurry up they have been doing. He's like, "Whew, I'm tired." Like, so he's still having to get used to playing at a faster pace, and it's nowhere near as fast as the fastest teams.
No,
but don't just be quicker. And I think it's just pressure on, and Jalen can go into it more detail than us, but just the pressure of having to hurry. You're down to the last second, and that's just a little nervous energy before the snap, because it's just, here we go. Because first of all, you're waiting forever, and then you're having to rush after having to wait forever. You use the whole clock, and then you're still trying to rush to get a snap off. So you're dragging it out and then rushing at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
So hopefully they can get rid of, kind of get past all of that. And like everybody said, Bush wants to run 30 times a game, like you just said. And the stat you said that I think everybody's going to come to know, he's always had a 1,000-yard rusher. Now, does he have a bell cow to do it? I don't know, but if he does, he's probably going to give that dude a chance to rush for 1,000 yards, because he's more of a run first guy. So
yeah, there's no doubt, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just, like, you got to do what it's going to take to win the game at the end of the day, and I think that was something they talked about at length in that little thing on Monday. That's something Bush Hampton, pretty much every time he's talked to us, has said, like, yes, like, I am a guy who's had an 1,000-yard rusher every year. Yes, we have an offense that, if you look on paper, is probably better suited to throw the ball more. They're going to do whatever it takes to win. Is it going to work every time? No, they're not going to go 12-0, as much as everyone would love that. They're not going to go 12-0, but I think they're going to be pretty balanced, and I think they're not going to be afraid to run the ball. Think about it. Ray Davis had over, but it was behind a very, very porous run blocking offensive line. You get a good run blocking offensive line, and that should just open up so much more and get you the balance you need. There was just, how many times did we talk about Kentucky the last 2 years? And yes, the play clock had something to do with it to an extent, because like you said, correctly. They had to rush into some plays, and there were some nervous things happening, especially on early downs with that play clock. But how many 2-yard runs, 3-yard runs, 1-yard runs did you get on those early downs that put you behind the chains, 3rd and 7 or more? Like, it was happening every single game. It felt like the last 2 seasons. So if they're going to have which I think this offensive line should be a heck of a lot better. I would be genuinely surprised if they are at the same or worse than last season. I just think there's more depth. I think there's better players, improved players, experience. I mean, Marcus Cox and Eli Cox have played like 85 games combined. It's crazy how many starts they played so much college football. So is Gerald Mincey. You hope Jagger Burton can take a step. If not, you have a guy in Dylan Wright who's ready to go. I thought played pretty damn well last year. You have Jalen Farmer, who had a really good fall or good spring camp. You hope to get more out of. You have a guy in Cortland Ford who's a legitimate swing tackle. I mean, there's just depth on that line. So if they run it 30 times a game and they are 9-3, is anyone going to complain and be upset about that? And remember what Bush Hampton said at a donor luncheon on a Monday in July? It's like, come on. So let's see. Let's let it play out and, see what type of team this is.
So what will happen more? Will Hampton get more 30-plus games running the ball, or will Pope have more games with 35 threes or more a game? I think I put that on a little poll on there.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I think, Kentucky's offense is going to shoot them now. I think I'll probably go with the 35. I just think that one, you're going to have games just given what, some of the 4 games Ole Miss, especially the 3, I'd say. I think Tennessee, you got a chance to at least really compete. But Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas could get away from you. And you're going to have to throw the ball in those situations. So that might limit the run a little bit. And I just think, again, I think you're going to want to get the ball to Barryon Brown, Dane Key, Jamori Macklin, that receiver room. So I do think they're going to run the ball a lot more this year. I think they are going to try to get back to the roots. But I know what Kentucky basketball's offense is. I went and watched a lot of those BYU games, and they are going to be shooting threes a lot. So I'll go with the 35.
If they can't do anything else, they would be able to shoot the ball. From all accounts, if they can't dribble, they can't set screens, they can't defend, they'll be able to shoot the rock if they can't do anything else.
Exactly.
And who was it? The assistant coach, Coach McLean, was on with Tom Leach this morning, and he said basically this offense, if the opposing coach was to watch him the night before, he still wouldn't have a feel what they're trying to do playing them the next day. As far as guarding it for 40 minutes, you can watch it, you can scout it, which it makes you feel good to hear that. But that is just crazy how just they react and how much it's just to go off of a feel. And so you can sit there and watch them and still have trouble guarding them the next day. And nobody in the comments is saying that Brad White is saying the same thing about Hampton, one of the hardest offenses to guard from a scheme standpoint.
No, they're going to be balanced, man, and they'll try to keep you on your toes. Again, Boise State had a top 25, I think they were 26, something like that, offense in all of college football last year. And I get it's the Mountain West, but it's Boise State's been one of the best group of 5 teams for years and years and years. So I mean, you look at what they were able to do last season. They put up 44 points on a UNLV team that was in the Mountain West title game, had a comeback season under Barry Odom. They put up 32 at Memphis, who's always a quality team. They put 34 to win at San Diego State, another really quality program. They put up points last season. They put up a lot more points than Kentucky did. They put up a lot more yards than Kentucky did. So let's just let it play out. It is something different. It is. Look, I think the last 2 years, I think it was easier to jump on Liam Cohen early last season because the scheme him and Scangarello were very similar. I think Scangarello just, one, he underestimated what the SEC is all about, and two, the play calling was just atrocious. With Cohen, I think it was more so last year, at least, the personnel on the offensive line wasn't good enough. You had Dane Key and Barryon Brown. I thought they both finished strong, but they both went through the sophomore slump. Devin Leary was not what they expected him to be, but also I think Cohen's just the pro style thing didn't work. And I think this year having concepts of that with more of your tempo college offense, I think it's going to be a good thing. The schedule will make it a very hard thing to navigate, but I am confident that this will be a better offense than we've seen the last 2 years. I would be very, very, very surprised if that's not the case. And hopefully we won't be surprised because we all want to see some points on the board. It's more entertaining for everybody.
That's it. So I'm about to put the poll up. If you're not following us on Believe in Kentucky, at Believe in Kentucky on Twitter, go ahead and give us a follow. Go vote in the poll. Subscribe on YouTube. We're streaming there. On the Facebook page as well. Like and subscribe and follow all that. Go to shop.believe.com. We've got Cat Daddy shirts there, and we've got Everest to Eddyville shirts. If you know, you know. You get what the reference is. So go and get yourself some merch as well. And I put the poll out, and you got a couple comments too. Let's see. Nobody is putting a bunch of. Oh, well, going back to the defense too, and this is a, I want to say imperative, but it really needs to have Weaver to have a big year for sure.
Like we say it every offseason, but in all honesty, it's obviously true. Look, he was another guy who played his best ball late last season. Obviously, he was the MVP. Deservingly so of the Louisville game. I think he had a sack against Clemson, if not two. I'm going to go look. Check my work on that. But he definitely had a sack in that game. Yeah, he had two. So, the last 2 games of the season for J.J. Weaver, 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. You'll sign up for that all day, every day. So, and a forced fumble in there, and a game MVP award. So, he finished the season on an extremely high note. And it was a guy that really, we didn't really expect to come back. Expected, all right, he'll try his luck in the draft and see what happens and go from there. But he decides to come back for his 6th year. And look, they need him to be deep. I think still, Deion Walker is going to get his. He's just so uber talented. He's going to be a top 10 pick and all that. But he's going to get double and triple teamed. And they need someone from the edge to step up and take advantage of single teams and just go beat their man and get to the quarterback. That is something this defense is not. They finished really strong in the sack department last year. They had 8 sacks against a good Clemson offensive line. So that was a good, hopefully precursor into what we're getting this year. The front 7, outside of subbing in Pop Johnson for Trevin Wallace, is completely intact from a year ago. You did lose Josiah Hayes for the season, but still so much continuity there. But the offense, the outside linebacker room is still, it's JJ Fairbury, who was just a redshirt freshman last year, and Noah Matthews, who just played his first significant time last year. And then, maybe Dorian Henry-Young is back from his ACL. We'll see when he's back at the DN. So you really need some help on the edge to finish some plays. And JJ is a 6th-year senior with all that length, with all the flashes we've seen during his UK tenure. There's been amazing moments in there. There's been some really big time sacks, some big picks, all of the above, but it's been inconsistent. The injury stuff has been, it's been a problem. But if they can keep him healthy and get the JJ they got late last year, he'll be a big time impact maker. They really, really need.
It's just like, your Yankees, because the lineup inside and out. With Deion Walker getting triple teamed, is we're going to single block all the rest of you guys, and y'all aren't going to make us pay.
Exactly. That's the key.
We're walking Aaron Judge to get to the next guy because we don't respect you because we don't think you can make us pay.
That's what they small. Luckily, JD Davis is not hitting cleanup anymore.
See, I knew you would know.
I'm glad they picked up Jazz Chisholm and Austin Wells is balling, so they can't do that anymore. But yes, that's exactly what I mean. I mean, look, teams are gonna go all out to stop Deion Walker. Deion will still get his at times because he's Deion Walker, but you need JJ is the next guy on that defense from a pass rush perspective.
Win your 1-and-1s and just eat. Go.
And look, if you start dominating, they're going to pay more attention to you, and that's going to free up Deion more. So the more pressure you can take off number 0, the more he's going to be able to do for you. So it's going to be, it's going to be pivotal that he has a big year, and also that someone else emerges from that group too, whether it's a Fairbury, whether it's Noah Matthews, if it's Henry Young, if he's healthy, Khalil Saunders, whoever it might be, one of the Smith twins, even as a freshman, Brian Robinson, just go down the roster. They need a couple guys on the edge to really help out. And like you said, when they're 1-on-1s and keep getting the quarterback.
This is a good question, and I don't know if we're going to get closer or not, but how close do we get to UK's first 3,000-yard passer?
Yeah. Well, if they're gonna run the ball 30 times a game, I don't know. I don't know about that, but they have the receivers to do it, to help do it. There's no doubt. Like I just think Dan Key and Barryon Brown are poised for big years. I think that they both went through their sophomore slumps. They both put on, especially Key, put on some weight this offseason. Just talking to, I'm interested to get in front of Barryon for the first time during camp, but, he seemed to have a little bit more maturity to him when we talked to him in spring, which was, I think, a really good sign of things to come. You add Da'Keil Shorts as the wide receivers coach. I think there's just more accountability being had in that room, and there's just more. Nothing against Scott Woodward, great guy, and I think was a good football coach. But I just think that Da'Keil Shorts has a lot more upside as the wide receiver coach. A guy who's been there, done that, is going to demand the respect in that room. And he can turn to his stats as a player, and he can look at what he did at Houston. I mean, you're talking Tank Dell. Would have been the right there with Stroud for offensive rookie of the year if he'd stayed healthy last year. Matthew Golden was a top guy in the portal. I mean, he has developed some receivers down there at Houston, and he'll do the same thing here. So I just think those guys are going to have a big year. Jamori Macklin is, the leader in touchdown catches of anyone who left via the portal this offseason in the country. So, you feel good about the starting 3. You hope Anthony Brown-Stevens takes kind of the step you were thinking you might get right away as a freshman last year. Hardly Gilmore's the guy they've raved about. Fred Farrier's the guy they raved about. So there's just so much depth there. We know what the tight end room is. That's another really good room, especially with Dingle as a pass catcher. I think Kamari Anderson is going to be I think he's one of the most underrated players on the roster. I just want to see him get the ball, and we'll see what happens there. But, I just think the pieces are in play for that to happen, but we'll see. We'll see just how balanced of an offense we get, and if that's even possible.
Yeah, and as dreadful as last year was, as much meat was left on the bone, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
Leary passed for almost 2,800 yards.
He sure did
last year. With my God, it was just so many missed passes. There's so just off. Ever in sync. Still, that's pretty close.
I know. And part of that is because there were some games where they're getting their ass kicked. So they had they were able to take advantage of some prevent defense and light, all that stuff. But
he lit Tennessee up. Now that was
that was his best game by a mile.
Yeah.
By a mile, his best game in the Kentucky. Yeah. And if they had won that game, I honestly think the perception of him would be a little better, and it wasn't his fault they lost that game.
No,
they couldn't stop a nosebleed defensively. So, but he did. He did almost do that, and the ceiling is, I think, higher for Brock Vandegrift. This is between returners and the addition of Jamori Macklin, this should be a really good receiver room, and Jordan Dingle, Kamari Anderson, Josh Caddis. just got to go get it done. Simple as that. Like, just go get it done.
Said that talking about our merch. That's a 606 shirt. It is half 606. We've been hearing for years Pike with a Paducah as far as Big Blue Nations, stretching across the whole state. My thing is Everett to Eddyville, and Trent Noah from Harlan. Everett is right there. Travis Perry from Eddyville, Eastern Kentucky to Western Kentucky.
Yep.
Alliteration, E to E. Everett to Eddyville is the new Pikeville to Paducah. So hop on there, shop.blee.com, and get yourself an Everett to Eddyville shirt. So got them right there. This too, how much stock you put in your Stoops micromanaging Cohen? He hopes to put Bush. None at all.
No, maybe from a play clock standpoint, every coach does that, but from what I've been able to dig up, I don't put anything into that now. I just think Cohen Cohen is an NFL guy. They got him from the NFL. He's a New England guy. Like, college football is just doesn't mean what it means up there. And I could say this because I'm from Connecticut, born in Georgia, but raised up there from when I was 3 till high school. Like, it is NFL territory. Like, yes, people watch college football. If their alma maters are from the Big Ten, the South, West, whatever, they'll go root for their alma mater. But they are not locked in like we are down here on college football. They're just not. And I think Liam Cohen is an NFL guy through and through. They picked him up from the NFL, where he was learning from the best offensive mind in the NFL right now, for my money, and Sean McVay. He did a year here to get an offensive coordinator job. He got it. It didn't go as planned. He was probably going to get pink slipped. He decides to come back to Kentucky. And then what does he do? He turns it into another gig because Baker Mayfield, who he helped in LA, wanted him in Tampa. Tampa, what their OC, becomes the head coach of the Panthers. Oh, perfect situation, leaves. Like, he wanted to be in the NFL. He was using Kentucky as a stepping stone. It just happened to be that he did it twice. So I don't think the micromanage. I just don't think there's much to that. I mean, look, Mark Stoops has definitely not had the best choices in offense coordinators. I mean, look, Neil Brown was a great choice, obviously, but Shannon Dawson, disaster. Eddie Gran, pretty good. I mean, the way he was able to reinvent the offense, but they weren't able to get enough done in the passing game, and he had to make a really tough decision. That was probably the right one. Cohen worked out wonderfully the first year. You get a guy who's in Scangarello who is pretty much the same schemes, same background. I think it was more of a personality thing more than anything with him. Didn't work. Get Cohen back. Quarterback doesn't end up the way you needed him to be. Doesn't work out. Okay. I think Hamden is, on paper, a really good choice, and I don't think he's going to micromanage. It's going to come down to what Hamden can do with this offense.
Let's see. Neil Brown, too. Let's see. He was here so early, and
first 3 years.
Can't fault him for
first 2 years. First 2 years.
Yeah. Can't fault him for getting the job at Troy and all that. I wonder what he would have been able to do had he come along later in Stoops' tenure, when you get a little bit more talent, a little more firepower, a little more weapons. And that's no disrespect to Jalen at all.
He would be the first to agree. Hey, the fact that he turned his, obviously there was more to it than the 2 years, but the 2 years at Kentucky with lesser talent helped him land a head coaching job just like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did a really good job here, and I agree. I would love to have seen, him with Terry Wilson, who I think had more to be unlocked. Even Steven Johnson to an extent. I mean, Johnson was great, but just to see what he could have done, it would have been cool. But he's obviously. He did an amazing job saving this job. Not only saved his job, but I think might have gotten an extension or in the good graces of the fan bases up in Morgantown last year. They had a great season. So, look, he's had some hits for sure. He's had some obvious misses, but at the end of the day, I don't think he's a micromanaging coach. I just don't get that. I don't get that vibe. I mean, I get he's a defensive guy. If he was a micromanager, I don't think Brad White would have stayed here 6 years when he had a chance to go to LSU. Vince Marrow's been here the whole time. Like Frank Buffano's been here the whole time. Like this is a guy that coaches genuinely like to work for. I've only heard good things about from an outsider's perspective, let alone inside the building. So I just don't see it. I have a hard time believing it.
And Matt House went to Baton Rouge and we saw how it didn't.
Yeah, it didn't work
out.
Yeah, he got an NFL gig, which paid more at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
So that was part of that. But yeah, but Brad was here, obviously, House's first year. So look, he's able to. The Kentucky does a pretty darn good job building continuity within its staff, and it hasn't worked out at the offense coordinator spot yet. But I just don't. I don't chalk it up to micromanaging. I just don't.
And flashing back, a lot of people probably would have thought Neil Brown would have been the next no-brainer to whenever there's an opening here, but it's Summerall whose trajectory is skyrocketed to this point.
Yeah, I think it's it's the age factor. 2, it's he was here and did a really good. Neil was here and did a good job too, but those inside linebacker rooms Summerall had now were lights out. DeAndre Square's development, taking Jaquez Jones to the next level his last year here. He got the most out of his guy. Jamin Davis helping him turn into a first-round freaking pick. I mean, cash for a year. So I think Summerall there is, and the job he did recruiting. I mean, some of the names he pulled in on the trail, the 4 stars like Josiah Hayes from Mississippi, an area Kentucky just doesn't go into very often. Chris Lewis was a 4-star guy out of high school who obviously has been great at Troy and hope he's doing better from a health perspective there. I think he's taking a medical year this year. But I think that aspect, what he was able to do in short order at Troy, what he's expected to do in short order at Tulane, I get it. And Neil Brown, as good of a year they had this past year in Morgantown, it hasn't been going great most of his tenure.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. I do. Assuming the Stoops things happens within the next couple of years, like we kind of all expecting, or are all expecting, I would be surprised if it's not John Summerall.
Yeah, and he seems so much younger than Neil Brown. He's only 2 years younger.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, right. Brown seems so much.
I guess I'm thinking
longer, but virtually
younger from a head coach. So Neil became a head coach much younger than Summerall.
Yeah, because he's 44. Summerall's 42. They're right there together.
There you go.
But Summerall just comes across as younger and maybe newer, kid on the block, that whole kind of thing, like you're saying. But
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So, but it's. The Kentucky coaching tree, and you got guys now that, hey, you wouldn't feel bad if they did. If the opening's there, we can talk to him. Just like this is way down the road. Pope just got here. But if he stayed 10, 12, 15 years, if Tyler Ulis does what everybody thinks he can do as a coach, he would be there 40 years old when Pope steps away, if it all plays out that way. I could see that if it, because he's done some good stuff. I know it's TBT, but he still would, if he had his druthers, be playing. But he's always been a coach on the floor, even when he was a player. When Cal got kicked out of South Carolina, everybody, Tyler Ulis was coaching that game.
Exactly.
If it wasn't Kenny Payne winning those games, it was Tyler Ulis coaching those games. So his coaching mind has always been there. You talk about him, you talk about Rondo with the IQ, but Tyler Ulis, if he goes and becomes a successful head coach and does well at different stops in bigger schools, if he's got his stuff together when Pope steps away, you can see that way down the road. So and we went so long without having Kentucky guys. Now it might just line up to that. Because Travis Ford wasn't successful. John Pelfrey wasn't successful. You know, they didn't do well enough for Kentucky to be like, hey, come back home. So, you know, and people still took a minute to wrap their head around Pope, you know, myself included.
All of us.
Yeah.
You're lying if you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. What did you get from the interviews, man? You mentioned that, you know, the guys were talking and meeting the media and everything.
Yeah. I would say it it was definitely good, first of all, to just get around this group. I think it's a very mature group, which you would expect with an older team. Kirk Carissa was hilarious, which is to be expected. I thought just from like a takeaway standpoint, nothing crazy. It was, I think, pretty interesting that Carissa came out and basically said, you know, hey, our starting point guard is Lamont Butler. I thought that was pretty interesting, and it shows, hey, Kerr is accepting of any role he's going to get. So I think that's a good sign that they're based in. All the freshmen kind of talked about how they're going to have to earn their stripes and not necessarily play a bunch, especially Noah and Chandler were very, very open about that. So I was pretty impressed from just a maturity standpoint of this team. Honestly, it's. Look, in this era of college athletics, guys want to play right away, but you didn't necessarily like hear them complain or any of that. It was very, 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 very refreshing to kind of see the buy-in, hear all that, and they all seem to just have a common goal, and that's to win as many games as possible. So, well, that was good. I can't say I learned all too much new about any individual player. I think just from an interview perspective and like what fans will have to look forward to when those, you know, when the season gets here and you see some of these press conferences. I think anytime Andrew Carr meets with us, you're going to learn a lot. He's a guy that really breaks things down and is very insightful with his answers. I think that Ortega always a pretty underrated personality, and I think just an underrated player. So, you know, it was definitely cool to hear from the guys for the first time, get around a new group. And there's definitely an energy that you can feel that's in a good way, different from the end of the Calipari era. I just feel like there's a lot of excitement, a lot of build up, a lot of wanting to prove themselves. I think Jackson Robinson he definitely wants to prove himself. He talked a lot about their, you know, being a big chip on his shoulder, given he's been in the SEC twice and, you know, it didn't go well at either stop. And, you know, now he's back as a whole kind of different player because you do look at what he did at BYU compared to early in his college career. He is a different player. So, yeah, all positive things. And as it should be, again, if it weren't positive in July, we'd be questioning some things. So, yeah, so good stuff all the way around, and just more hype put in the train and stuff to watch as we get closer to the season and get really going again in October.
And you know, we made fun of Jalen when he said the Cal-ism, they're not machines, they're not robots. Right after Cal left, we all make fun of him here on this show. Yeah. But they're not, even though we mistakenly want to do that. We just assume they're just here to play ball. Everything's great. They don't have any problems. Hearing Kerr, you know, I think Dick Gabriel asked a lot of guys, especially the foreign guys, Amari Williams, Kirk Carissa, what's it like, you know, being away from home, get homesick. Just the little stuff we all take for granted. Kirk Carissa misses sitting on his grandparents' couch and his grandmother's food.
Yeah.
We don't think about that because we can call our grandma or go visit. Even if they're far away, we see him way more often than he sees his. He's, you know, and then he found out last month somebody in his family is going through some real hard sickness. And we just forget that, you know, you just come in and hoop, and if that's all you got to do. No, it's not. And he's not a machine. He's not a robot. And he's been away from home. He's dealing with it and making sacrifices, but he's still got stuff on his mind just like everybody else. And all those guys do.
Yeah, that part of the that part of the machines not robots has always been and will always be true. I mean,
Yeah,
it's true, man. They go through a ton. Obviously, they're human beings just like all of us, and so it was definitely it was cool to hear some of their stories about just getting to know them. Again, it's the first time being around any of them
yeah,
before, except for Perry. I've been around him a couple times, but I hadn't been around any other player on this team. And they're all, they just have a lot of stories and a lot of experience for the most part to them, just because they've been at so many different places. I mean,
mhm,
you're talking about 4 school, 3 school, 2 school guys almost across the entire roster. So,
uh,
some really, really good stuff for a first, round of interviews from that group, and look forward to continuing to, build relationships and get to know this group and, see what's ahead of them when we get really, really rolling in October.
yeah. Estonian food. There's not any in Lexington. He's
Right. This
he was
is
getting
true.
recommendations for some Greek places and all that. He just this little stuff we don't even think about. But yeah, it was good to hear those guys. He is hilarious, like you said.
Oh
Uh,
gosh.
he's not a bad golfer, and Travis Perry can maybe go pro in golf when his basketball's done. The way everybody talks about him on the course, but yeah, so always fun and fun hearing the media try to ask them different questions and just not basketball questions and just trying to approach it differently and them fielding the different types of questions that they're going to get and some open up and who doesn't, who's quiet, who's where's the personality and all that stuff. But yeah, like you mentioned, an older team, the guys, multiple stops, been around, not been to Kentucky, but been to a lot of different places, played a lot of college basketball. And so that definitely would be a different type of deal than in past years.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. And it is because I am, and I think an encouraging thing is they all talked about just the chemistry they have going on, the relationships that are being built already, and doing things together off the courts. I think that's all extremely important and encouraging that already they're kind of building that chemistry, and they're getting along well. They're getting to know each other. Again, they've never played together. Like that is crazy to think about how there's not a single player on this roster that has been teammates at any stop or anything like that. So really important they continue to build that chemistry, and it seems like they're well on their way to doing so. And that's really good to see, obviously.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So Cat's Paws football issue is out, working on the basketball, and then all the other stories that you got as well, right?
That is right, man. It's it's the grind time of year. Obviously, football starting, basketball will be here before we know it. So yeah, it's a busy time of year, but one of my favorite times of year because love the build up going into football season, and then obviously the football season itself, and then basketball. That is October and November, definitely the busiest months, but again, some of the most exciting because there's so much going on and a lot of optimism, a lot of hope, a lot of good stuff. So, excited to get the ball rolling here on Friday with Media Day and go from there football wise.
That's it. That's it. And Nick Mingione got some good news. Tyler Bell
Yeah, that was big.
Gonna stay at UK and
Yeah,
go to Tampa Bay. So that was cool.
that was cool.
And one last thing about Bush Hamdan too. Just talked about how, and it's kind of, I guess, the whole weeding out process. They're trying to limit. I think was he talking to Tom Leach today? Limit the amount of things that they do to where they're doing the same things in week 5 or week 6 that they are now. Which
Right.
You gotta, the reverse of the Cheesecake Factory, where the menu is just so huge. You gotta trim it down to just practice now what you're going to be doing in a month. And that, he's still getting used to the personnel, still trying to install stuff. And so that's definitely a tricky tricky kind of thing in year one for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's going to take some time, and that's why it's been really good that they've had this summer training and everyone kind of in the right headspace to get it done. So it is going to be fascinating in October when we finally get to see them. Even in their scrimmages, they have that one against Minnesota State, who was a D2. I think they were the D2 national champion just this past season. So things like that is going to be really fascinating to watch and see how they're meshing. Because like you said, it's all new. And literally it's all new.
Yeah. So we'll see the process. We'll keep our eyes closely on it. We'll be back every week talking about what we see. You'll be able to see and hear a lot of stuff like you always do, AG. And, we do some emergency stuff as needed. We'll be there for that as well. But we always enjoy bringing the podcast to you. Appreciate everybody that tunes in. Appreciate nobody who is from the 606 like myself just hitting us with all the good comments this evening. Y'all feel free to subscribe, follow, YouTube, Facebook page, Apple Podcast, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast. Check out Believe in Kentucky and stay tuned and stay updated with us. And we'll be back again to do this next Wednesday at the latest, AG. And like you said, it's go time now. So
yes, sir.
And congratulations again on the engagement too. Gotta end it the same way we started. So.
I appreciate it.
Congrats to you and the soon-to-be Mrs. Gershon. For Aaron Gershon and Catch Balls, this is Vinny Hardy. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network. Check us out next week. Go Cats. We'll see y'all a week from there.